All right, so let's dive right into this. Today we're taking a look at the Indus Valley Civilization, a civilization that's just shrouded in mystery and makes you wonder just how much we really know about the ancient world.
Yeah.
You've sent over some amazing material on this, and one of the first things that grabbed my attention are these cities. We're talking 2000 BC, and they had urban planning that rivals some modern cities.
It is really remarkable, isn't it? I think we've always been taught to think about ancient civilizations with the grand monuments and the temples, but the Indus Valley people really seem to prioritize practicality and civic order. That their cities like Harappa were laid out in these really well-defined grid patterns. They had advanced drainage systems, even designated waste bins, and all of this was constructed using fired clay bricks.
Wait, hold on. Waste bins. 2000 BC. That's insane. I mean, it really makes you rethink what we consider advanced for different periods in history.
Mhm.
And we're not just talking about a small village here, right? These cities were home to tens of thousands of people.
Absolutely. These were true urban centers bustling with activity. And this scale of these cities speaks to a very sophisticated level of social organization and engineering. They clearly understood the importance of sanitation and just efficient planning in general to support a large population.
So not just surviving, but really thriving. And that makes me want to know more about their economy. What were they producing? How were they trading? Was this a civilization built on trade?
Well, their economic and industrial achievements are just another fascinating aspect of the civilization. They were really skilled artisans and engaged in a wide range of industries, from cloth spinning and metalwork to pottery and even shipbuilding.
Shipbuilding. So they weren't just landlocked traders.
No, not at all. Their shipbuilding allowed them to engage in maritime trade across vast distances. Their trade networks were really impressive, spanning a huge geographical area. And we see things like agate, this beautiful stone, being transported from hundreds of kilometers away to be crafted into beads and seals in the Indus Valley cities.
I mean, that's an incredible level of sophistication for the time period. Really makes you wonder what those trade routes were like. The caravans and the ships and just the sheer logistics of it all. And speaking of logistics, with all this trade and economic activity, there had to be some form of government, right? But here's where it gets really interesting. There seems to be a complete absence of those massive palaces and temples we usually associate with ancient rulers.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest enigmas of the Indus Valley civilization. Unlike their contemporaries in Egypt and Mesopotamia, who really flaunted their power through these monumental structures, the Indus Valley people left very few clues about their ruling class or even their religious beliefs.
It's almost as if they deliberately chose a different path, focusing on the well-being of their citizens and the functionality of their cities,
Sure.
rather than on displays of individual power.
That's certainly one interpretation, and it's a compelling one. The lack of those monumental structures dedicated to rulers or deities has led some scholars to believe it was a more egalitarian society, perhaps with a decentralized power structure.
So instead of a single all-powerful king, maybe a council or a network of leaders, but how did they maintain order and defend themselves without a strong centralized military force? Did they even engage in warfare?
That's a question that's puzzled archaeologists for decades, yeah.
Uh,
While a lot of the initial interpretations suggested a peaceful society, we have found evidence of weapons and also skeletal remains with injuries that are consistent with warfare.
so not exactly a utopia then, more like a society that maybe understood the realities of conflict but perhaps chose not to glorify it.
It's possible, yeah. It seems like warfare, if it did happen, was more localized, perhaps in the form of small raids or skirmishes between cities or groups rather than large-scale conquests.
Interesting. It really makes you wonder what their motivations would have been. Control of resources, territorial disputes, or was it something more complex like cultural clashes or maybe power struggles within their own society?
Exactly. And unfortunately, without being able to decipher their writing system, many of these questions will just have to remain unanswered for now. We have these glimpses into their lives, through the artifacts and the ruins, but that full story still remains a mystery.
It's like trying to understand a conversation, but only hearing a few words here and there.
That's right.
Frustrating, but also incredibly intriguing. So we know they were skilled engineers, traders, and artisans. But what about their beliefs, their values? What can we piece together about their culture just from the objects they left behind?
Well, one of the most striking aspects of Indus Valley art is this recurring motif of the female form. We find so many of these terracotta figurines that depict women, often adorned with really elaborate jewelry and headdresses. And this suggests a prominent role for women in their society, perhaps even a matriarchal structure, which is pretty unique among those ancient civilizations.
That's fascinating. It really challenges our assumptions about gender roles in the ancient world, and it makes me even more curious about their religious beliefs. Were these figurines goddesses or representations of important women in their communities?
That's the question archaeologists are still exploring. We also find all these seals with these intricate animal depictions, bulls, elephants, rhinoceroses. These animals might have had some kind of symbolic or religious significance, and some scholars have even drawn parallels between some of these motifs and the ones found in later Indian religions like Hinduism.
Oh, wow. So there might be a thread connecting the Indus Valley Civilization to the spiritual traditions that emerged in the region centuries later.
Yeah, it's a possibility, and one that researchers are actively investigating. But the truth is, until we can unlock the secrets of their writing system, so much of their belief system is just open to interpretation.
It's like having this treasure chest full of incredible artifacts. But the key to truly understanding what they mean is still missing. There's so much we still don't know. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about their decline. We touched upon it a bit earlier, but I'm curious to kind of delve deeper into what we know about the factors that led to the collapse of this once thriving civilization.
The decline of the Indus Valley Civilization is really complex, and for a long time, scholars attributed it to external factors like invasions. But as we've gathered more evidence, a different picture has emerged, one that points to a more internal and perhaps more unsettling cause: climate change.
Climate change. I mean, we tend to think about that as a modern problem, but you're saying it played a role in the demise of a civilization thousands of years ago.
Precisely. Around 1900 BC, the Indus Valley region, along with many other parts of the world, experienced some significant climate shifts. There's evidence of these prolonged droughts and changes in monsoon patterns, even shifts in river courses.
That's incredible. It really makes you realize that climate change is not a new phenomenon at all. But how did these environmental changes specifically impact the Indus Valley people?
Well, if you remember how crucial the rivers were to their way of life, they relied on the rivers for irrigation, transportation, and trade. As the climate shifted, these rivers started to dry up or change course, disrupting their agricultural practices and their trade routes, and also their access to water.
So like a cascading effect. The environmental changes led to economic hardship, which then destabilizes their entire social and political structure.
Exactly. And to make matters worse, their main trading partner, the Akkadian civilization in Mesopotamia, was also collapsing around the same time due to a really severe drought.
Wow. So a double whammy. Their own environment is changing, their main economic partner is collapsing, and suddenly these once thriving cities are facing this perfect storm of challenges.
And it's important to remember this wasn't a sudden, catastrophic event. It was a very gradual process of decline, one that spans several centuries as they struggle to adapt to these changing circumstances. Imagine the impact on their way of life, their sense of security, their very identity.
It's a sobering thought. It makes you wonder if a civilization as advanced and sophisticated as the Indus Valley could be brought down by climate change. What does that say about our own vulnerability today?
That's a really profound question, and one that I think we should all be pondering. The story of the Indus Valley Civilization is this stark reminder of our interconnectedness with the natural world and the long-term consequences of those environmental changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But their story isn't just one of decline and collapse. It's also a story of resilience and adaptation. What happened to the people after they abandoned their cities? Did their culture just vanish?
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine just a whole civilization disappearing like that. Did they completely abandon their way of life?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. While those great cities of the Indus Valley were abandoned, their culture didn't just vanish. Archaeological evidence suggests that a lot of them migrated eastward and southward, adapting their way of life to that changing environment.
So instead of a total collapse, more like a transformation. They adjusted to the new realities and carried on.
Precisely. We see these smaller rural settlements popping up with these distinctive artistic styles. And these styles really echo those motifs and techniques from the Indus Valley tradition. It's a testament to their resilience, I think, and their adaptability, that they were able to keep some aspects of their culture even while facing those profound environmental and social changes.
It makes you wonder what elements of their culture were the most important to them, the things that they really held on to, even as their cities were crumbling. What do we see specifically in those later settlements?
Well, one of the most striking continuities is the craftsmanship. We find pottery and tools and ornaments that clearly demonstrate a connection to that Indus Valley aesthetic. For example, those really distinctive painted pottery designs and those intricate carnelian bead-making techniques, they continue to appear in these new settlements.
So even though their lives were changing, they held on to these artistic traditions. It's almost like they were carrying a piece of their identity with them as they moved and adapted.
Exactly, yeah. I think it speaks to that enduring power of culture and just that human need to connect with our past, even when faced with those, profound changes. And speaking of enduring legacies, let's talk about one of the most, I think, exquisite examples of Indus Valley craftsmanship, the stunning necklace that was discovered at Mohenjo-Daro.
Oh, yeah. This piece is incredible. What makes this necklace so special?
This necklace really is a testament to the skill and the artistry of the Indus Valley people. It's crafted from a variety of these really precious materials, including gold, agate, carnelian, and jade, all meticulously shaped and arranged. But what makes it truly poignant is its fate during the partition of India and Pakistan. This necklace, a symbol of this shared heritage, was actually divided between the two newly formed nations.
Oh, wow. That's heartbreaking. It's a tangible reminder of how even ancient history can be impacted by modern events.
It is, but it also, I think, emphasizes the power of these objects to connect us to the past and to each other. This necklace, even though it's divided, still speaks volumes, I think, about the shared cultural heritage of that region and the artistry of the people who created it.
Well, this deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. The Indus Valley Civilization is so much more than just an entry in a history textbook. It's a story of innovation, resilience, and adaptation. A reminder that even in the face of those challenges, human ingenuity and just that drive to create and to connect can endure.
Absolutely. Their story really invites us to rethink our assumptions about ancient civilizations and to really appreciate the complexity and interconnectedness of human history.
And as we continue to uncover more about this fascinating culture, who knows what other secrets and surprises await us? We started this deep dive really focused on their urban planning, but we uncovered so much more. Their art, their trade networks, their resilience in the face of climate change, and that enduring legacy of their culture.
It's a good reminder that archaeology isn't just about digging up the past. It's about understanding that human story in all its complexity.
I couldn't agree more. Well, a huge thank you to you for guiding us through this incredible journey. And to you, our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and left you with a deeper appreciation for the wonders of the ancient world. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into those mysteries of history.